the art of negotiation. So today I was having a session with a client, and he said, "You know what? I have had the best feelings recently um, that I've ever had in my life." He said, "I don't want to be dramatic, but it feels like I just achieved some of the best feelings I've ever had in my life. It was the other day. I just woke up feeling amazing. I felt so great." And so it's not uncommon for me to hear that people are feeling better as they're progressing on their healing journey. But he was able to go into detail. He said basically he had recently had a conversation with his friend. In fact, it was the day before. He was feeling so good. He had this conversation with his friend, and something that he would have normally been hesitant to express to his friend that he wanted to do, he just put it out there that he had this interest and he wanted to do this thing and he needed a companion for it. And he didn't think that it was going to go over well. Again, he wouldn't normally put himself out there, but this time he did. And to his surprise, his friend responded very well. His friend was emphatic, and now he has a companion to do this thing that he's always been interested in. And so, by his own words, he said, what what the key here was is that I had the courage to ask for what I wanted. I had the courage to ask for what I wanted. As a result, I felt really good the next day. So these good feelings are directly connected to having the courage to ask for what I want. He said, "You don't understand it. My whole life, I've rarely ever had feelings like this because I've always been put down for asking for what I want. I've always been refused for asking for what I want. I've always been punished for expressing myself. And now, for the first time, I felt like someone responded well." And I encouraged him to separate the response of the other person and recognize what he controls in the scenario. He said, "Yeah, well, I control my ability to speak up and ask for what I want." And that is key for us as trauma survivors to feel more happy, more healthy, more connected, less in fear, less traumatized, to have a better sense of well being. We need to have the strength, the courage to ask for what we want. You will find that life is a negotiation. So, the reason I'm going to bring to you FBI level tactical negotiation strategies today is because negotiating is a non negotiable. In order to live your life in peace and in happiness, you need to know how to negotiate. It is a cure to many of the symptoms of CPTSD, because those who have complex trauma, who are abuse survivors, have difficulty with conflict resolution. Those who are abuse survivors have difficulty setting boundaries. Those who have CPTSD have difficulty handling authority and issues with control. Those who have CPTSD have difficulty with trust issues and relationship issues. Those who struggle with CPTSD have difficulties regulating their emotions, fear of conflict, people pleasing, wearing masks, social anxiety, avoidance. All of these things are remedied. All of these things are remedied by your ability to negotiate, to show up to the table and ask for what you want. And so if you have the skills of negotiation, then suddenly you don't have to have the fear of the conflict. When you have the skills of negotiation, then you don't have to have the fear of the conflict. Conflict can actually be a beautiful thing. Conflict can be a beautiful thing when we use it as an opportunity to negotiate. To actually negotiate is to work out an arrangement, an agreement, ideally so that both sides can get their needs met. Conflict can be a beautiful opportunity for both sides to get their needs met. Doesn't that sound like something you should embrace rather than run away from? Absolutely. We don't want to run away from conflict. We need to embrace that it is an opportunity. So we got to change the whole way we look at it, the entire angle that we're approaching conflict from. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's an opportunity for us to get what we want. So for us to make sure we're meeting our needs. And by the way, for us to make sure we're meeting other people's needs well as well. That's the beauty of conflict. When someone speaks up, it creates a clash. It could be that their needs aren't getting met and they want their needs to get met. And if you're the person who speaks up and creates the clash, it could be that now you are creating the opportunity so that your needs can get met. So how do we do this? What are the skills of negotiation? How can we go in and negotiate the things that we want out of life in our relationships and at work and at school and in the community and when we're buying things and when we're selling things and in our business and in our finances and in our marriage and in our household with the chores and in legal situations and in our legal battles and in healthcare issues and in parenting with our children and in negotiating with our parents and in our education and in our travel and our leisure and our personal goals and our aspirations. How can you have the skills of negotiation so that you're able to get your needs met and make sure that the other person's needs are getting met as well? Well, that's what I'm going to break down for you today. And these techniques that I'm going to give to you are the techniques that hostage negotiators use, meaning the best negotiators in the world, the ones who cannot ever lose, because if they lose the negotiation, someone dies. Literally. And these are the skills I'm going to pass on to you today. So make sure you have your pen and paper. You're ready to take notes. The first thing we need to do when we want to negotiate or ask for what we want is regulate our own emotions. The number one thing that can throw off the negotiations is you going in too hot, too heavy, too hard, or you getting dysregulated at a certain point in the discussion and getting thrown off of your system, of your tools, right? So to negotiate properly, the first thing we've got to do is we need to manage, regulate our own emotions. Now, how do we do that? How do we remain calm? Because we know it's essential that we remain calm. But how do we do it? By pausing. Rule of 7 seconds. Rule of 7 seconds dictates that we're going to allow 5 to 7 seconds to pass before we say anything, before we respond at all. We're going to allow that time to pass. And while we're pausing, yes, we're thinking, but also we're breathing. Breathing is a known technique to regulate your emotional state, to slow your heart rate. Right there, right in that moment. So take that second, take that 7 seconds to breathe when you enter into a negotiation or a conflict. Same thing. It's the same thing. It's an opportunity to negotiate, to make sure that your needs are getting met and the other person's getting their needs met as well. Pause and breathe. Try that right now. Just take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Now you're in a more calm frame of mind. And notice how the voice changes. Notice how even my cadence changes with a little breathing. That's key. You want to speak in a calm voice when you're negotiating for your needs. You want to speak in a calm voice. This is key. Every hostage negotiator and tactical negotiator understands that when they go in, they can't speak as if they're the boss, the authoritarian, They have to go in calm and speak with a calm, like radio DJ, like an FM night radio DJ voice. Why is that? Well, it's calming and it's disarming to the other party, your counterpart now, to go in with that calm radio DJ voice, right? It's a lot easier to talk to someone who's speaking to you in a manner that is assuring, but also deferential to you. So we want to make sure our tone of voice is both assuring and deferential to the other party. Deference, yes. They're an authority too, just like we're an authority, right? We're equal authorities. So we want to show that deference to their authority in this matter. They've got some issues that they need to take care of, that they need to get met. And we want to show that concern for that, which brings us into the most important part of step one in remaining calm is showing empathy. Show empathy. We want to engage with our empathy. Please understand that empaths make the best negotiators on the planet. The best negotiators are not your hardline CEO, narcissistic personality, disagreeable personality types. It's not the best negotiators. The best negotiators on the planet is the super empath, the healed empath, the one who has the ability to sense, project, and feel the feelings of the other person. They are going to be able to reach higher degrees of success, mutual success, when it comes to a negotiation. Because a negotiation is not a fight. And so for a healed person, you rarely ever need to fight. There's negotiation. Negotiation is how we handle conflicts. We need to make sure everyone's getting their needs met. Does that make sense? So step one is remaining calm. That involves breathing, pausing, speaking in a calm manner, and employing our empathy. Step two, and this is very important, restate their position in your own words. Restate your counterpart's position in your own words. So you come to the table and you say, hey, from what I understand, you feel like I'm not doing enough chores around the house. Restate their position. You feel like you're the one who has to do the most work in our company. Come from where you think they're at, and this is where your empathy comes in. It should be sincere. And so you're trying your best to give them in your own words what they are feeling. So you say, would I be correct in understanding that you feel like you're doing the majority of the childcare and I'm not helping out enough? Is it true that you feel like we're already having sex too much by having sex once a week? Is it true that you feel like it's not fair that you should have to do your homework before you go outside to play? This is our negotiation tactic. This is number two. Restate their position in your own words. Now, as you're doing this, you're framing it as a question for them. They're going to say yes or no, right? So they're going to say, yeah, that's right. That's the answer you're looking for. You want to get your counterpart to say that's right. But sometimes they'll say, no, that's not right. You don't get it. And then what do? Remain calm and listen with empathy. We listen with empathy. Okay, help me understand. And then they tell you again, well, I just feel like blah, 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 such and such. They relay it out for you. But you're creating this calm environment. They're starting to feel listened to and understood. And then you come back when they're finished with, okay, so what I think I understand is, or if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is, or what I'm hearing is, and then restate in your own words what you think they're trying to say from a genuine place of empathy. Why is it important to do this? Well, notice what unskilled people do in relationships. Me, I, you. So they talk about themselves, they talk about their position, and then they're blaming the other person. No wonder nothing is getting done. Because I don't want to be blamed. So how is that tactic supposed to work? It doesn't work. Blaming and yelling doesn't work. Defending yourself doesn't work. Defending yourself doesn't work. That's an argument. As soon as you take a position of offending or defending, that's an argument. So speaking over the other person, trying to make your points and assert your points, that doesn't work. In a negotiation, this doesn't work. What does work is listening with empathy, restating their position in your own words to show that you really got it, until you can get them to say, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You got it. You're going to summarize it in your own words. You can label it. You say, this is sounding to me like you think I'm a bad guy. This is sounding to me like you feel like you're an outcast. You feel disenfranchised. You can use labels as long as it's sincere. And they'll tell you, yes, that's right. Or no, that's not right. It's not bad when they tell you no. It's not bad. It's a good thing. It's a part of the negotiation strategy. We're getting them to reflect also on their own position so they can see it more clearly. So when we restate it in our own words, sometimes they realize how foolish what they're saying kind of sounds. So it's okay to label it. So you're saying you would like me to do all the work and you just get to play all the time. And then they go, they kind of realize they sort of did say that. So now they start reclarifying their position. But what happens while they're reclarifying their position? You know what happens? They're negotiating against themselves. So what it sounds like to me is you want me to do all the work and then you don't do anything. And they go, well, no, that's not what I mean. What I'm saying is, I feel like we should do a split. I feel like we should do 50-50. And you're going, that's what I wanted the whole time. Yeah, that's what I wanted the whole time. But you got them to come to that conclusion. How? By restating their position in your own words. Summarize it, you label it. Show empathy and deference. What's deference? Deference is showing that you acknowledge their position of authority in the situation. Does that help in negotiation? Shouldn't we be trying to come in as the authority? Could seem counterintuitive, but you actually want to acknowledge another person's authority so that they don't feel they have to assert their authority, right? Because when you make them feel like they have to assert their authority, bad things start happening, right? They start using negative reinforcement to try to assert their authority, to take things away from you or to impose things on you. And so it's a good tactic to just state things in a way that shows empathy and deference to them. Deference to them. So what I understand you correctly in saying that you feel our department should be phased out because Department A is more important than us. Just restating what I think you're saying in my own words, and you allow them to respond. Either no, and then they can explain again, or yes. You're right, you got it. And when they say yes, that's right, then you know you're on the right track. If they say no, then it's time for them to rinse and repeat. And when they repeat, then you go in and you keep restating until you get them to say, yes, that's right, you got it. Does that make sense? Can you see how already we're coming to more of an understanding instead of this original clash that we feared? This is why we don't have to fear confrontation when we got the skills of negotiation. You don't have to fear confrontation. When you have the skills, now you can go in and know this is about empathy. This is about remaining calm. And this is about understanding the other person's viewpoint. That's steps number 1 and 2. That's not so scary. What's so hard about that? What's step number 3? Step number 3 is to use how and what questions. Ask how and what questions. That's step number 3 in our art of negotiation. This is something that top level FBI terrorist negotiators use when, yes, negotiating with terrorists. They use how and what questions. And they find this is quite effective. Instead of using closed yes or no questions, by asking how and by asking what, they cause the terrorist to have to solve the problem of the negotiator for them. What is it? What do I mean by that? Well, so let's say you have a terrorist and he's got these hostages, or he's threatening to do this thing, the situation, if you don't cave to his demands. And so you hit him with a how question. How am I supposed to do that? This is not something he calculated for, because now that puts his mind in the hyperdrive of trying to solve your problem. How am I supposed to do that? And he's going, well, and if there's any room for him to recognize that his demand is unreasonable, he'll recognize it then. If you say your demand is unreasonable, he'll say, well, then I'm killing a hostage. Right? We don't want to get in that struggle. We want to use that deference. We come in as if we're co-collaborators on this, because that's what negotiation really is. You reposition the situation. Instead of being opponents, you become co-collaborators on solving a problem. And so you ask how and what questions to your co-collaborator, right? You would say to your co-collaborator, how are we going to solve this? That's what you should say in a negotiation. You say to your co-collaborator, what can we do about this? That's what you should say in a negotiation. You say to your co-collaborator, what do you think the best method is? That's what you should do in a negotiation. Rebecca had a job as an intern, and she was basically working for free for this company, and it was supposed to turn into an offer, a job offer. But the more she did really good work for them, the more they kept giving her more hard work to do. And so they're piling on these assignments and these projects, and she's at the point where she's going to go broke because they're not paying her anything. And now she's stressed out. And she talked to her coach, who was a professional hostage negotiator formerly. She said, how do I get them to start paying me without losing this position at this prestigious firm? I don't want to mess. I don't want to like get them to say, oh, you're not a good intern anymore. We're just going to get rid of you. I want them to say, we got to pay her. And I've been trying to do good work here. And the negotiator gave her this advice. Don't say anything right now. Just wait until they need something from you again. And when they come to you to ask for the next assignment or to give you another project, you ask them a how question. You simply say, how am I going to do that? And that's what she did. She waited until they asked for her to do another project, which didn't take long. And sure enough, they came to her and said, hey, we want you to do this project and such and such. They didn't say anything about paying her. And she said, how am I supposed to do that? She said it in the most respectful tone she could muster. And you know what they said? Yeah, you know what? You're right. We're going to have HR send over a salary package for you by the end of the week. Bam! Just like that. She was getting paid to do the job she wanted to do. How did she get what she wanted out of life? Yeah, she asked for it, but she used the skills of negotiation. And when you use the tactical skills of negotiation, you get a higher degree of success. I want you to feel all these good feelings on a daily basis. The feelings of connectedness, the dopamine rush, the oxytocin, the serotonin that comes from feeling like The outside universe is aligning with your values. And that happens when you start advocating for your values, and you're going to get more success in getting your values aligned with when you have the skills of negotiation. So ask how and what questions. Like, how am I supposed to do that? Or what about this doesn't work for you? Or what is the biggest challenge you face? Or what about this is important to you? Or how would you like us to proceed? Or how can I help make this better for us? Or what is our objective? Or what are we trying to accomplish? Or what brought us here? Or how can we solve this? Or how am I supposed to do that? Or what do you hope to accomplish? Are you free to make up your own? Well, of course, but keep them open-ended. The objective here is to get them thinking in terms of how they can solve your problem so that they become a co-collaborator with you. So you're positioning yourself as a co-conspirator. How are we going to do this? What do you think is the best approach? What do you think would be our best strategy? How do you think we can make this more fair? And you will be surprised at the results. What stops people from seeing this very clear technique is the fear of giving an open-ended question of how it's going to turn out. But don't allow yourself to be guided by the fear. Roll back to step one and keep yourself calm. Take a deep breath. Pause. Formulate a well-calibrated question and fire. How can we make this work for the two of us? And what will you find? You found that you developed a creative way of saying no without saying no. You found that you've developed a creative way of stating that there's a boundary without making it awkward. You found that there is a beautiful way to gain your opponent as being your ally in this negotiation. And they start empathizing now with your viewpoint. And because you have not blamed them, you have not accused them, you have not yelled, and you have not defended. You've just been calm, you stated their viewpoint, and you've asked them a question that really does make sense. Now you've enabled them to be a success in having this negotiation. So are you ready to put it into action? Let's take a couple examples and then we'll open up the discussion. Let's say you're getting a job offer. You should always negotiate when you get a job. If you're an employee, please get out of slave mentality. Everything in life is a negotiation, including getting a job. So negotiate on the job. Negotiate for the days you want, negotiate for your job duties, negotiate for the money. Get something out of the deal. If they're giving you the offer, that means they want you as the employee. Negotiate. Does that mean you have to do something to mess yourself up? No. You just simply use your steps. Use your steps here. You're going to remain calm. You're going to state their position. Thank you so much for this opportunity to work for you. I'm sure you have a lot of things to balance in terms of the budget and this company overall. And then hit them with your question. What can I do so that I can make sure I'm satisfying your requirements, but still have the 3 days off per week that I mentioned in our interview? That's negotiation. You're just asking a question, but you're asking for what you want. Imagine you're buying something that requires haggling, and you're like, "Oh God, I don't want to haggle." Just use the art of negotiation. These 3 steps: remain calm, state their position. I understand you've got people you've got to please, you've got bottom lines you've got to hit, and then hit them with your question, which could be, how am I supposed to pay that much? Or what can I do to get you to come closer to my amount? What can I do to make sure both of us walk out of here happy so that I don't just end up walking away? Picture yourself in the family. You got to negotiate on the chore situation. People are kind of putting a little too much on you. You already had the dishes. Now they're giving you garbage and they're giving you floor duty. And you're like, this is a lot. So instead of yelling, or instead of passively just doing it or being passive aggressive with it, you use the art of negotiation. You remain calm. You come to them from their standpoint, state their position. Am I correct in understanding you feel like you need more help around the house? And then you hit them with your question. How am I supposed to take on more chores than I'm already doing? And let it sit right there. You'll be amazed at the results. So hopefully these tactics, these techniques have been helpful for you to learn.